Hello and welcome to Drive-In Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan,
I'm Ryan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into today's movie, I want to talk to you about our Patreon. If you head over to patreon.com/Drive-In Double Feature Podcast, we have a bunch of bonus content over there for you to listen to. I'm not even going to tell you any more about it. It's a secret. Dive deep, get in there, find the secret treasure. Uh, but anyway, let's get into this week's movie. Movies. We got two movies this week. Wow, what a surprise. I'm rambling at this point. Uh, let's get into this Tuesday's movie with Die Another Day. Yes, it's another Bond movie, and it's the last Pierce Brosnan Bond movie, directed by Lee Tamahori. It was made in 2002. It's the new millennium. It's a new Bond. It's the 20th Bond. Also, it's 40 years after Dr. No came out. So it's like all the anniversaries wrapped up into what's considered the worst or one of the worst Bond movies of all time. So I was excited to watch this one. I never have before. How about you, Ryan?
Well, I saw this movie in theaters,
Oh
so
boy.
but I don't think I'd seen it since then. So I was,
Gotcha.
I was, I, 14-year-old me thought it was pretty fun and exciting. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a great action movie, or
Yeah, I can see
and
it.
but now I'm like, okay, now that I'm a true critical thinking cinephile,
Mhm.
with my own very strong opinions, I'm ready to tackle this movie finally.
And then you're gonna clap your hands and be like, "It was fun! Yay, yippee!" Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go. Your
yeah,
critical thoughts. Yeah.
nonstop action thrill ride.
There we go. Thumbs up. But no, yeah, I had no experience with it, but this is I've seen every Bond movie. I've done it. I've completed it. I've seen every Bond movie, but we're still gonna keep going after this one, guys. Little spoiler for you ahead.
Oh,
Um,
there's more after this?
oh wow, you haven't seen the Aaron Taylor Johnson one yet?
Oh no, I thought we were just going to start over.
I think we should. I think that's what we really should do. Like really soak it in. Like do a rewatch series. Um we should do
Yeah,
at episode 300 we're just going to redo every episode we ever have ever done.
well, I'd say we just re-review our episodes.
There we go. That one's for the real fans, right?
We talk about we listen to them all in the length of a movie, and then we pretend like that's a movie we just watched.
Wow, that was a great movie. Those two guys, I like what they got to say. I'll just say that.
I agree with everything he said.
Yeah, it would be funny if you were like, I don't agree with what he said. What a
There's probably
jack.
some. There'll probably be some of those
I
times.
think so. I think I would listen to myself talking and be like, what am I going on about? What what am I saying? But anyway, oh, go ahead.
That's for the behind the scenes episode.
Yes, yeah, we'll get there eventually. Which speaking of which, I can't believe we're almost episode 300. Absolutely insane. Um, but getting into Die Another Day, this this movie opens. Pierce Brosnan ends up on the beach. He takes off a wetsuit, and he is breaking into North Korea. Yes, North Korea. That's the big topic of the 2000s. Um, which has he been the we haven't messed with North Korea yet, have we?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
It's
cool.
pretty much just been like Russia.
Yeah, it's like always Russia, so it's kind of nice to see something a little different. But he breaks in, and what's interesting about this Bond is, I will say he does get dealt or treated differently because he gets imprisoned. I mean, this is after a huge action scene where he goes and makes a fake arms deal, and with two North Koreans that are trying to sell weapons outside of North Korea.
Well, like one of them is like the general's son, and the
Hmm.
other one is like his bodyguard, pretty much. And
Yeah.
uh, they they James Bond's character, he's playing like you said, an arms or like an arms dealer, and he has diamonds in there,
Yes.
and the guy gets hit in the face with diamonds, and he gets
Hmm.
some. which that becomes a big plot point later. That becomes a defining character trait of his.
He's Diamond Face, guys.
Yeah, that diamond face.
Well,
I
they
mean,
might as well have called him that.
and like Whisper, Knickknack, Jaws, Diamond Face.
Yeah, I would be for it, but no, what even is his name?
It's isn't it like Zhao or something or
Yeah,
Zhao?
that's right. Yeah, Tang Ling Zhao.
There was a pretty good opening chase sequence though.
No, I agree. I think it's nice to not see skis, and it's a hovercraft, which I actually don't think we've seen before. Where it's like,
uh
have we seen a hovercraft?
Not a hovercraft, but we saw that gondola that would drive on land or whatever. Like when,
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
so that's the closest thing to a hovercraft.
Well, this is a little more action packed than that. It is interesting because I like the theming, or not the theming, but the why the hovercrafts are there is because Americans have put down a ton of landmines, but the hovercrafts can just float over them. So there is a great chase. And actually, you think that the bad guy, Colonel Tansun Moon, you think he dies, but Pierce Brosnan gets caught after he dies by the actual general, and the general's like, "You killed my son." And then we get into the title sequence of
Well, I was gonna say the title sequence is them like well before that, like they're interrogating him and just torturing him.
yeah. So this has to be like one of the few, if not the only time the title sequence is the plot of the movie. Like it actually moves the plot forward, right? Because what we see is a bunch of molten lava women and ice women dancing while James Bond is in the background, chained up, getting the crap beaten out of him in various torture devices.
Yeah, it's there's like one where it's like a heat signature and it's like
Mhm.
a lot of fire. There's scorpions and
It's crazy.
and one thing you should know about this movie, because some of the '90s one they did have CGI, but
Yeah.
oh man, does this movie love its CGI? It
Yeah.
is. They're thinking that this is it, guys. CGI ain't getting better than this.
I
Let's load the
know.
crap out of this movie with CGI.
They lean into it. And it sucks because from a modern perspective, it all looks like crap now. Like I don't think there's any good CG in this movie. Can you go back to your 14-year-old brain, and did you notice any bad CG, or were you okay with it?
I was probably like, it's awesome.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's the only
Oh,
thing I can imagine.
well, I told you. I mean, like when I was like, I mean, when you're a kid and it's like I'm watching like PlayStation One graphics, like of like
Mhm.
Madden or something. I'm like, oh my god, it looks like I'm watching a football game. It's like,
Yeah, and now it just looks like a shit of blurry blocks on a
yeah,
screen.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Uh, but as far as the song goes, it is "Die Another Day" and it's sung by Madonna.
on a old podcast, I actually defended this song. I did because I think it's a fun song, but it's God, it's an awful song, but I have fun with it, because like it's bad. It's hard to explain. Like it was stuck in my head the rest of the day, but I think it's so unfitting as a Bond theme. Like this has
What,
no reason to be a Bond theme.
like, okay, it's a bad song in
Yes.
general. It's so, I mean, even on its own without the Bond luggage attached to it or the baggage attached to it, it's not great.
No,
Uh,
no.
um, I, what makes it what makes it fall even further down though for me is after watching all the Bond movies and Bond songs, it's like because I think we said like before, like the worst one before this was maybe The Man with the Golden Gun or
Yeah, the
something like
Lulu
that.
song, yeah.
Which, like, going back now, I'm like, okay, that's not a bad song. Like that, it's not
Mm-mm.
memorable, but it's not a bad song.
Yeah.
And but to me, it's so unfitting because it's like this techno dancey
Mm-hmm.
music, and it to me it's not fitting at all. And in my mind, it's probably the worst one out of all of them. So
Yeah. I
up to this point, because we don't know, maybe I've changed my opinion of
Ooh.
Skyfall. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Oh no.
Gets
And you just
spicy.
love writing on the wall. Who
Yeah.
knows? But no, I just agree. It's poorly done. It's just a really bad choice because like you said, it's like electro dance and die another day. It's really happy poppy over James Bond getting tortured, and it just feels so wrong. It's like tone deaf almost.
Analyze analyze this.
Yeah, I think at one point she goes Sigmund Freud. It's like what?
It's so dumb. It's so unbelievably
Yeah,
dumb.
I don't
And
even know why you'd get Madonna in the year 2002. I
well,
don't know.
well, like because I guess like because at the time she was married or dating Guy Ritchie, so like
Yes, yeah,
she what this is like this weird period of like when Madonna pretended she was English. Like
that's right.
it's because spoiler alert, Madonna's in this movie too.
Oh yes,
Uh,
yeah.
and she does have a bad British accent in this movie too, where it's like,
Yep.
and she's not good in this role either. But it's just like because this was around the time. I think this was the same year as like that awful like Swept Away movie came out.
Oh yeah, the Razzie winning movie.
Yeah, so like, and that was like a big deal for Madonna and Guy Ritchie. It's like they're like the two like worst movies like of the year that they made. Like so, I don't know. Like Madonna was just like everywhere, like over bad stuff this year.
Yeah, it was her year to do awful things. But yeah,
But
she does show up later on in the movie, which I actually didn't know she cameoed. So I was a little surprised.
I remembered as she was in it, but I couldn't remember who she played. And I mean, to be fair, it's a very small part. I mean, it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
affect the plot. It's literally like a cameo role. So
exactly. It's not like she's playing the new Bond girl or anything. Um,
right,
but yeah, so Bond is tortured, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I was actually watching this stuff, and I was like, "This is interesting," because it was kind of fresh. I don't know. Bond
mm-hmm.
was like tortured. He wouldn't give away secrets. I even like the whole thing where what the British government does is to get Bond back, they trade Diamond Face for him. So because Diamond Face actually gets arrested, goes
Yeah,
back across the bridge, Bond goes across, and they trade for him. Really cool. Even if Brosnan has a really bad long hair wig on, it's fine. Um, but he gets his 007 status revoked because they believe that he gave away secrets, even though he didn't, and he escapes. Which I think is cool. I thought it was going to be License to Kill, like, oh, he's a rogue agent kind of deal. Eh, They don't really do it like that. He just kind of does his own thing. He goes to Cuba. Um, and I think this is probably where the movie falls apart. So I have a hard time with this movie and the last one. The last one I thought was boring and kind of fine, but it was really boring. This one's bad. Like it's just like a bad movie, especially when you get into the end, but it is fun. So I don't know which one I would rather rewatch because I was thinking like, I don't know, this one I would laugh and have a good time. The last one was just kind of boring.
I that's not a hard choice for me. I mean, I would
Yeah.
pick this one over World Is Not Enough. I mean,
Okay, yeah.
I like you said, it's not a good movie, and in fact, the plot into it and a lot of the moments in the movie are really stupid, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
so I mean it, but I can at least remember some of the stuff in there, like the bad guy in the last one. Like I couldn't even tell. I mean, I remember like he couldn't feel pain or whatever, but I couldn't tell you anything he said or did in that
Mhm.
movie.
Yeah.
But not that this bad guy is especially good, but it's just so ridiculous that it's like, okay, I I can at least remember what this guy's motive is and everything. But
Hmm.
um, so I mean, for me, like, yeah, it's a really over the top bad movie, but I, like you said, it's at least fun. It's like at least they're trying to keep you interested in the movie and they're trying new stuff. It doesn't look good, but hey, they're trying.
Yeah, and I mean, if anything, that adds another layer of fun of like, wow, this looks so bad today because there is a lot of really bad CG. There's a scene we actually get to see the Bond girl Halle Berry playing Jinx, um,
You owe me a
who,
coat.
huh? Oh, yeah, you owe me a Pepsi. That's my
Oh,
version. Yeah,
gross.
I know. I really, I think Halle Berry is fine, but I really think the dialogue they give them is so bad because I don't think those two, Jinx and Bond, ever have a real conversation. They only talk in sexual innuendo. That's
Yeah,
it. And I thought
yeah,
that was pretty terrible.
yeah. She's fine in it. She's not exceptionally bad. It's not because I mean this is like before this she did she
She's an
won an
Oscar
Oscar.
winner. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like she's not a bad actress, but it's just yeah, there's a lot of really bad characters like I mean like she's called Jinx, like that's her code name or whatever, and then it's
Mhm.
like see, that's why they call me Jinx. Trouble always comes my way. I'm always bad luck. It's like
Yeah.
that's dumb, just dumb stuff like that.
Yeah. Or when she looks at Bond's pants and goes, "That's a mouthful."
Yeah, and I gotta say this. So like we have seen Bond sex scenes, but this is easily like the most like sleaziest one that we've seen. I think like
They
like
they're
before it's like them like like shirtless and like they're hugging, you can't see anything, and they're kissing
Mhm.
maybe. Like this one, they are full on like
It's a sex scene.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
sex scene. It's like a soft core porno almost.
Yeah, they're like on top of each other, going at it. That's the best. I'm trying to remember. She pulls out a knife at one point and
Yeah.
then and then cuts a fruit and then they like exchange it in each other's mouths. It was very unneeded, but I guess the idea is that Bond's been in prison so long that he just needs sex that bad. He's like, "Oh God, I can't live," and it's like
What?
the best of his life.
And then like they this is jumping way ahead when they do like the final like sex scene between the two. It's that one's gross too because it's
Yeah.
like I mean like very like almost no innuendo. It's like
Hmm.
oh I'm gonna put it in, and she's like oh it feels weird, like that
Yeah.
kind of like stuff like that, and he's like. But what he's doing, he's putting like a diamond in her belly button, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, but it
like,
feels so, yeah, I agree. I was hearing it and I knew it was going to be like an Austin Powers
yeah,
like,
sure,
but like I was like cuz she's like, "Oh, leave it in a little longer, please." And I was like, I don't want to hear that, please."
yeah, like I don't want a porno James Bond.
Exactly, yeah. And I don't want to talk crap on Pierce Brosnan too much because I do think he's a fine Bond. But I
Yeah,
do think in this one he's definitely looking older. It's weird that for me I feel like there was a jump between the last one and this one, and I think he's really looking a lot older in this one. And I don't think the writers, because we're already talking about bad writing, just Bond isn't good in this one. I just really think the writing they have for him just is flat out just kind of bad.
no, I mean, just like I said too, like the movie plot as a whole is not great.
Hmm.
It's nobody really acts like themselves. I mean, we this one's definitely kind of like the black sheep of the entire franchise. I feel like
Hmm.
so.
Yes, for
Uh,
sure.
I mean, it's from what I've read, this is widely regarded as like almost everybody's like worst Bond movie, and
Hmm.
even the people that are involved, like Pierce Brosnan said this is his least favorite one. Roger Moore says this is his least favorite
Oh,
one,
he
and
has
it's
nothing
like
to do with this one.
I'm just saying like if people that are involved with the franchise, but a lot of people said that, and like a lot of the producers were saying, hey, we wanted a more action Bond, so sorry, like that's our bad. Like the producers, like full on
Hmm.
took Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, like took a lot of the blame for that, like because from what I understood is that Pierce Brosnan wanted a more like back to basics type of thing where it's like Bond doesn't have hardly any gadgets, where it's just him being a spy, which
Hmm.
is ultimately the direction they would end up going back to in
Exactly.
in later movies.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think like that. I think that's how people look at this movie as well. Is like it was Bond pushed to the extreme, and which it was already getting ramping up. That it kind of needed this to make them go, let's dial it back and let's do something more down to the basics. And that's why we got something as great as Casino Royale, because it was like we got to reinvent this whole thing and try something completely different. But that's
Well,
for
maybe you don't like it. Maybe you don't like it anymore.
maybe I'll hate it. I don't know. I do remember they record security footage on Sony Blu-ray discs, which I don't think is a thing anybody does anyway.
I'm just not excited to see Woody Allen again.
Yeah, we're gonna do the original Casino Royale again, but I think
Yeah.
that'd be a fun prank. But no, we won't do that. Um,
Um.
but I guess getting back to like the plot, I mean, Bond goes to like this DNA clinic where they're reinventing DNA, and that's how he gets everywhere. That kind of brings up the that it's because of that plot point. We find out way later. Spoilers, I'll just tell you now. The main bad guy in this movie becomes a Caucasian Englishman. And the diamond face guy is also in the process of doing that, but he gets cut off halfway. So he just becomes albino, but he still has the diamonds in his face.
Which it's totally fair because Bond did yellow face and you only live twice, so now we get white face. So
I know,
it's
I
fair.
perfectly balanced, just the way it should
Yeah.
be. I agree.
But no, it looks really bad. Like the diamond face, he looks so ridiculous. I mean, like he's got like these big lips and they're big red lips and like pale skin with
Hmm.
piercing blue eyes, and he's got diamonds in his face and he's bald. So
Yeah, I think
he does.
they were just really trying to make this is an iconic. This is going to be an iconic one, just like Jaws. He's like got a very striking look.
Yeah, I mean, you won't forget him. I'll say that.
No, I won't.
And but then I think his name is General Moon, I think, or
Yeah.
Colonel Moon. Like the guy who died in the very beginning of the movie, like you thought he
Hmm.
died, and they rebuilt him, and he turns out to be like you said, like a playboy millionaire type of character, and they turn him into a white Englishman. So now it's like a white Englishman playing a Korean man and speaking Korean. It's very awkward.
It is, yeah. Seeing
and,
this,
and
go ahead.
well, I mean, because much later in the movie, he has like these really emotional moments. Like they're trying to make you feel emotional, anyways. With
Uh-huh.
like his dad, it's like, "Don't you remember me, father?" And he's
He's just,
and it's like this is old Korean man. And it's like
yeah.
my son is dead.
Yeah, it comes off as goofy because they picked like the most stereotypical British person they could, like very stuck up, crazy accent, just like sound what you'd expect like a stuck up British person to be like, and that it's like they play into that. Same with the Bond villain girl that is his sidekick, played by Rosamund Pike. In her first ever movie role, by the way, I just learned this, playing Miranda Frost.
Yeah, she's
Um,
very young in this movie too. She was only like in her early 20s in this
that's
movie. So
that's wild. Well, her career would go up from here.
well, she was good in this. I'll give her props for that.
Hmm.
I actually thought she had better chemistry with Bond than Halle
I could,
Berry did. But
yeah, I could see that. Well, once again, because Halle Berry only speaks in like "I want to have sex with you" language to
yeah,
Bond.
well, yeah, her character, of course, it does they do the exact same plot point they did in World Is Not Enough, where it's like, oh, like she's a good guy. Oh no, she's been with the bad guy this whole time.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really just a rehash, and I was really feeling that. But I do agree. It was nice to see her, and I think she's interesting. I do there's one scene I do really like. It's the action scene where Bond fences with the other guy, and I really like it because it's fun. That's the scene Madonna's in. Whatever. I don't need Madonna. She's I don't care. Bond says something there. It says, "Oh, I always keep my tip up." Whatever. Um, it's gross. But the actual fencing scene where they fence like first slash each other's chest, and they're just breaking crap, breaking windows and fountains in the middle of places. It's actually kind of a fun action scene.
That you're no, I was gonna say like of all the action sequences, which like this one probably has the least amount of CG in it. It's like this one's probably like my favorite. Like
Yeah.
it feels the most realistic, even though it's a little cartoonish because they're fighting all throughout the mansion a little bit. But at the
Mhm.
same time, it's like, oh, I at least remember this scene.
Exactly. And it feels like something that would have been in like a sillier Roger Moore movie. I could have seen it, you know. Um, but I guess the whole plot of this movie is that this rich playboy, Graves, am I right? Gustav
Gustav
Graves.
Graves, yeah.
Yeah. He has this Icarus, which is a giant satellite in the sky that can harness the power of the sun and shine it down. And he's going to sell it as a weapon to North Korea. Or I guess kind of the highest bidder kind of deal. Yeah, it's really stupid.
Yeah.
Very stupid.
No, and it reflects a satellite which shoots a laser from outer space onto onto the ground, and there's a scene where Bond has to outrun this laser that's
Yeah.
shooting down.
Yeah, it's that this is probably the most iconic scene of the movie, like as far as when people say it's bad, and it's bad. It's all CG. There's a scene where he surfs in the water because the sun laser is melting the ice, and so he has to surf away from the giant laser. And that's kind of where everybody points to, like, this one went too far. It kind of did. This
Yeah.
scene is outrageous.
Well, yeah. Because before that, I mean, there, like I said about the CG, there's multiple scenes of really bad CG. So
Mhm.
some of the ones I want to mention before
Mhm.
we get to the big one is there's a scene where Halle Berry is like on the edge of a
Yes.
cliff, and she backflips, like, or she just kind of like falls backwards off the ledge.
It just looks
That
bad.
CG, it looks awful. It looks so bad. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't even look like it. It's like Halle Berry standing there, and then she looks like she goes inside of like a video game,
Yeah,
kind of.
it just looks wrong. Like I've seen I clicked back to watch it again, and there's just something about the fall that just doesn't look right. It's very unnatural. That scene is pretty awful. Pretty
Yeah.
quick.
And then we do get John Cleese back in this, except he's not
Yes.
R this time. He's officially Q, which
Yeah.
this is his one and
His
only
one.
role. Is
Yeah. I'm sure they told him like, yeah, you're Q now. You get to be Q forever, man. You get to keep going.
Yeah, he was thinking he was going to get a nice steady paycheck, or
No.
no, but he's a lot less sillier, I guess. Maybe I don't. No, he's kind of silly, but
No, he's silly, but like he's a little more Q. Like I actually think he's all right in this one. I don't
he's
hate
fine.
him. Yeah.
He's fine, but he does play Q though in like the video games, doesn't he? I
Yeah,
think, or
and Everything or Nothing, which I always hear people say like, this is the last Pierce Brosnan Bond because it's an original story or whatever. So yeah, that is his last role as Q.
right. And they do a callback with the jetpack, if you saw
Yeah.
from I think it's On Your Majesty's Secret Service, or
The jetpack, isn't that from Russia with Love? Oh no,
maybe you're right.
I'm thinking of the video game. I think the jetpack is from later. I think you're right.
Right, it could have been. I can't remember
Yeah.
which one off the top, but yeah,
Um,
it's the one with the jetpack, and they do reference that again, which was nice to
yeah.
see.
The fake
But
crocodile in the back too. Did you see
yeah,
that? Yeah.
oh
There was a
yeah.
lot of fun references in that scene.
And then but yeah, the CG is like they show him the Aston Martin, but it has an invisibility cloak, which that doesn't look good at all.
No,
And
no. But I'm sure that back in the day that was cool. That's one that I could go like be like in 2002, if you saw the invisible car in a movie, you're probably like, that's awesome.
well,
Love
I
it.
remember, like, like it, like watching Harry Potter, like the and
Mhm.
the Sorcerer's Stone, and there's a scene where he like gets on the troll's back, and Harry's like all
All
CG, and
CG.
like even his face looks like this weird like rubber mess. It looks bad, and but
Yes.
like thinking like, oh yeah, it looks so good, just
Whoa, Harry just got how did they do that? How did they get a real
yeah.
troll?
But yeah, that those are two notable CGI scenes. But like the worst one is by far, so they go to this ice palace in Iceland, and which that's probably like the most impressive set of the
Yes,
movie. I
that
mean,
is true.
it does look good in
Mm.
there, and it but there's a scene where like all the ice caps melt, and like from the laser, and Bond has to like surf on the in the water, uh and it's the water's all CGI, the ice blocks are all CGI. It
Mm-hmm.
looks awful. It
Yeah,
is.
it's
It's
bad.
probably the worst looking scene in any of the Bond movies we've seen up to this point.
No, I agree. Up to this point, it is the worst. It's just bad. It's outrageous. Like we've seen some silly stuff in these movies, but this is just like, wow, I can't believe they took Bond like this far. Because we've seen silly Bond. I mean, Bond's literally been in space at some point, but for some
Yeah,
reason, this still feels like that, like the tip of the iceberg or something. It's
I
just
mean, at least it looked like outer space. You know, at least it
that's
was
true.
practical. So I mean, I can at least say from a movie standpoint, at least looked like what they were trying to do. But this
Mhm.
one, it's like, okay, well, you know, we have these resources for CG, so let's go ahead and try to utilize this to our full potential. We're really going to go all in on CG, and
Mhm.
this one is it does not look good at all. I mean, there's so many instances of this movie where it's just like, I really wish they didn't do this.
Yeah, especially on like simple stuff that didn't need it, or maybe they just wouldn't have to do this giant laser plot point. But whatever. That's where the movie goes. The movie ends up at the Ice Palace for a long time. Don't worry, James Bond sleeps with Miranda Frost. Okay, it happens
Yeah.
as a sort of cover, which I think is a funny way to set it up because they both have to hide, and then it's like, oh, let's hide in this hotel room. Oh, I guess we got to sleep each other to for our cover, which ends up we are supposed to still think Miranda Frost is the good guy at this point, but part of the reversal later. Speaking of things that get silly, Halle Berry ends up getting like chained up to a bed with a laser on it, kind of
Oh
like in
yeah.
God, a Goldfinger.
Goldfinger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
That doesn't look good either.
no, it's such a bad action scene because Bond has to fight Diamond Face, and they're like dodging lasers, and she's like riding around on the table, kind of watching it. It's hard to explain on a podcast, I'm gonna be honest with you, but it is just
well,
too much.
Well, yeah, but then he does fight like another heavy in that scene, and
That's right.
the guy the guy gets shot in the back of the head with the laser, and like the laser shoots out of his mouth.
Yeah, and that's pretty rough. Isn't there? I'm forgetting right now. There's like a really bloody scene in this movie. I'm trying to remember. No, no, that's late in the movie. That's right. Someone gets crushed by the ice chandelier and a bunch of blood comes up in the water. That's where the movie ends. The ice palace, it's melting, and we got to get Halle Berry out of the ice palace before it falls in on her.
That yeah, like the final sequence of this movie is very long. Like the very
It's a little
like
too
that
long.
it's they are at this ice palace probably for like the last 40 minutes of this movie.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of disappointing. I was like, oh, we made it to the ice palace, and we're just going to spend the rest of this movie here. Okay.
Well, you know what it is? It's probably because it's like, oh, well, we can just shoot the rest of this movie on a green screen because you know it's all CG, so we don't really need to even try. We don't even need to be present.
Yeah, nobody's gonna notice either. Everybody, 20 years from now, nobody's gonna notice any of this. That's what they were saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Uh, but but you know, they do kind of wrap it up with they do have like this, like I said earlier, like they have this big emotional moment where Graves, you know, is like confronting his father, and his father's like, no, like I'm not gonna let you get away with this type of thing. And uh you know, because they were trying to like they wanted I guess he was gonna like help him like invade North Korea, so North Korea could invade South Korea.
Yes, yeah.
And he's like, no, I don't want to do it like that way, you know. And I don't want you to help us because you're not my son anymore.
And all I'm thinking is like if this actually happened in North Korea, I'm like dead sure they'd probably be like, okay.
Yeah, if North Korea could have a laser that freaking annihilates the demilitarized zone and
They would do
South
it.
Korea, they would 100% do it.
Exactly. So
Sorry, sorry,
that
sorry
threw
to
me
all of
off.
our sorry to all of our North Korean listeners.
Yeah, like that. They always show that picture of like the one green light of North Korea of like somebody playing Steam. They're also
Yeah,
listening to the podcast too.
yeah. There's
But
a
also, I also
shout
hope,
out to North Korea.
yeah. Well, I hope that that one person listening is like, yeah, we would. Yeah, you're right. Um, but anyway, yeah, that's where and it ends on an airplane. Graves has like this electro suit on, like the metallic like suit that can
Oh
shock
yeah,
you. Oh god, it's so dumb.
dumb.
Yeah, but he ends up dying like the Incredibles way. He goes out the window and he gets sucked up into the jet engine.
Well, technically, this movie predates The Incredibles, so really, Syndrome died the die another day away.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna call up who directed that one, Pete Doctor.
No, that was Brad Bird.
Brad Bird. Okay, I'm gonna tell Brad Bird he's a hack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do it.
Um, yeah, he ends up going out the window. And then Halle Berry and Bond have to get out by helicopter. And this is where those lines come in of Jinx going, "Oh, you know I'm jinxed. We're not gonna make it. We're gonna die." And this another horrible CG scene when he shot of them in the helicopter just looks bad. And also has that horrible line where there's diamonds in the back. She's like, "Well, at least we're gonna die rich."
They
Okay.
should have said they should have said we're gonna die, but at least diamonds are forever.
I would have actually liked that a little bit more. um, but yeah, I mean, then they have the last sex scene, and I don't really think I'm trying to think if we missed anything. There's one bit. Bond plays the VR mission, and Money Penny's like shot in the head, and I thought that was like really like I saw her dead with a bullet in her head, and I'm like, I didn't want to see that actually.
Yeah, like Moneypenny just dies like right away.
Yeah,
Like,
it's such a weird sequence.
yeah, I remember seeing that, and I remember like, wait a minute, I forgot about this scene, and when I
Hmm.
saw that, I was like, wait a minute, Moneypenny dies. I'm like, because I remember the final scene of the movie,
Hmm.
and
That's
so I was like,
right.
did she die? Um, and but no, he was doing a training simulation, and he does. But at the very end of the movie, James Bond walks into the room and he starts making out with Moneypenny, and you're just like, I knew what the gag was before
Hmm.
this, but yeah, it's because Moneypenny is in a simulation where she's making out with James Bond, and I don't think they should have done that. I think it should have just instead of it being revealed as a simulation, they were just kissing and then like credits roll, like
Yeah,
just he ends up with
well,
Moneypenny.
that would be like a great ending to Pierce Brosnan's run, right? Like, wow, romance prevails. They made it together. That's what I thought they were doing. Because I didn't know that, and I was like, they're kissing now. Oh, okay. I guess they're ending it like we're done. This is it. But no, she's getting a little too friendly in the VR machine. I'll just say that. But John Cleese
She's on
walks
the
in on.
ground writhing.
Yeah, yeah. It's a bit hot and
I'm
heavy.
like, this, yeah,
They made this
this is a
actress do that.
workplace, okay? I mean, you need to calm down, all right? We're
Yeah,
at work.
John Cleese is about to file something for misuse
Yeah.
of property.
Uh, uh, oh, there's one thing we forgot about this movie. One person we forgot to mention was in this movie. Michael Madsen's in this movie, and I didn't
Oh
know who he
yeah.
was. And I didn't know who he was when I was younger, but I'm like watching this now. I'm like, wait, Michael Madsen's in this?
Well, I saw him
I
in
didn't
the
know this movie
credits.
was Kino.
Yeah. Oh, Tarantino made this. But no, I saw Michael Madsen in the credits, and I thought you'd think Michael Madsen would have a bigger role. He kind of does nothing. He just plays like just the American side of things, and he just kind of gets pissed the whole movie. He's like, "Oh, you need to make sure Bond gets
Oh yeah,
on this."
yeah. He's like the director of like the espionage from America. He's like, if you people don't sort this out, we are, and like in his
Hmm.
Michael Madsen like gravelly voice.
Yeah, exactly. I would have liked a bigger role. I think that would have been fun, kind of like God, I forget the name, but his buddy in the Golden Eye and in
Oh, Felix Leiter.
Yeah, Felix
Oh, that
Leiter.
would. I don't know. I don't know if I want Michael Madsen as Felix
I
Leiter.
guess it would be a little different.
I was thinking like maybe he could have been Diamond Face.
You know what? That would have been pretty cool. Oh God, I feel like that sets up some bad things at the DNA Center.
Well, he could have. They could have done like like after Diamond Face gets his facial reconstruction, he chooses to look like Michael Madsen.
I don't
Maybe
want to look like Michael Madsen.
I want to look and sound just like Michael Madsen, please.
Yeah, that's every man's dream. At least I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes. But I do think that's it for this movie. Overall, it's a weird movie to recommend. I think it's a not recommend. Just on the basics that it is a bad movie. And I think your enjoyment will only I think it's going to vary from person to person. So I think overall it's a not recommend, but I did have fun with it. I do think it's a good for a little bit of a laugh.
Yeah, it's definitely falls into like the campy Bond
Mm-hmm.
side of things, but even those, I mean, those were at least decent movies.
Mm-hmm.
This one's not great, but like I said, it's not my least favorite one, so I'll say that. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're wanting like a ridiculous looking Bond movie, this is pretty about as over the top as I think it ever gets for the series. So that's
Yeah.
the only time I would recommend it. But as a movie of a whole, I would not recommend it.
No. But Ryan, this is Pierce Brosnan's last time that we're going to talk about him. So we do at least got to rank his run. Now, this is only 4 movies, so it's not like Roger Moore, so where we got to like dig through them.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we can start. It's probably going to look similar, I feel like,
Probably.
but we can go through it. We'll start from the bottom, okay? So I do think the worst one, as far as like enjoyment goes, is The World Is Not Enough, which might be a little controversial, but that one's just kind of boring, just like a really uninteresting movie.
Completely, I agree. That's my least favorite. Completely unmemorable, really bad. Like Denise Richards as a Bond girl is about as grim as you can get, and
Yeah.
I again just really dull movie. Like I can't think of much of that one.
No, I agree. And then next up, my third one, and then probably yours too, Die Another Day.
Yeah,
I think it's a bit better just because I'd rather rewatch it, but it's definitely not like the other two are actually good movies.
yeah. I mean, just going back, like it's over the top enough for where I wasn't bored watching it, but it's again not a very good one. It's definitely in the bottom tier of the
Yeah.
Bond movies.
But you know what, Ryan? Let's spice it up a little. Number 2, GoldenEye. I'm
I
saying
figured you'd
it.
say that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
figured you would.
yeah, great movie, fantastic movie. I have no issues with it. I guess I'd go more into comparison here, but I mean, it's a good movie. The jump from Die Another Day to GoldenEye on the ranking list is like a gigantic gap.
Yeah, I go back and forth on it because I mean I loved Goldeneye so much, but then it's
Hmm.
like, oh man, Tomorrow Never Dies was really good though, and I'm
Hmm.
like, so I depending on the day of the week, I could probably switch honestly, but as
Hmm.
it stands today, as of the day we were recording this, number 2 would be Tomorrow Never Dies for me. But again,
Hmm.
very, very, very close second. It's very razor thin. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
it's just a really fun movie, fun plot. I mean, over the top bad guy. It's just really interesting. That we haven't seen a bad guy like that before,
hmm
and um, got Michelle Yeoh in it. Very very good movie. I like that one a lot.
yeah. Same here.
And then
That's why I put it at number 1 because I just think I don't know, just a really fun one, probably like just a really great Bond, and it's got Michelle Yeoh, Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh.
yeah, I agree totally. And my number 1 obviously is GoldenEye. Just I have a deep love for that one. I mean, I think about it a lot when I think of James Bond, and so many memorable scenes that I can name off the top of my head right now. So I do love that one. So, but like I said, they're both very very close. But as a Bond as a whole, Pierce Brosnan, it's like did 2 great ones, did 2 stinkers. You know what? It evens out. It's fine.
I agree. I think it evens out. I think Brosnan is a good Bond. I do. I like him. I think overall, I wish he got better. I do, because those first two are good, and I really wish it didn't have to end so poorly.
Yeah, and like I said, he may not be my favorite Bond, but when you say Bond, like that's immediately who I think of. Like that's
Same
who I
here.
would think of. Like if you say like, what does James Bond look like? I'd say looks like Pierce Brosnan, probably. You know?
No, I agree. Yeah, because that's the one that works for me. So yeah, no, I agree. Right now I don't really have a ranking. I'm gonna save that one. I don't. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard to rank them up. Um, but that wraps it up for this one. But Ryan, what are we gonna be covering on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, we're going to get back into the Gamera side of things, and we're going to be talking about 1969's Gamera versus Giron, and that is for free right now on Tubi.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch that one. If you want to reach out to us, you can email us at driveandoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com. You can tweet at us, X at us over at DIDF pod. And until next time.
Until next time.